we're going to get the webinar started. We've got a bunch of people in attendance. It's awesome. Check out the chat at the bottom of your control panel. That's where you can ask questions that we're going to get to toward the end of the webinar. Um, really glad to be here with Sam. Hey, Sam.
Hey, how's it
So
going?
everybody should be able to see both of us right now, along with the main slide. I'm going to be your moderator today. My name is Ryan. I'm working with Halt the Harm right now, part of the operations team. And I'll be also giving a short presentation today. So as we get started, there's just a few housekeeping things to touch on. So this webinar is going to be recorded. So for those of you who have to step out early, or if you just want to watch it again or share it with somebody else, you find it really valuable, you'll be able to get the recording. We'll send it to you after the webinar. Also, if you have any technical problems at all, use the chat box and let us know. You can also email us at info@halttheharm.net. If you can't get questions into the chat, but you still want your question addressed, just send us an email. And finally, at the end, we're going to have a short survey that'll help us get some feedback and advice from you on how we can make this service really awesome. So the way the webinar is going to work is we're going to present for about 10 minutes each, a little bit less maybe, but around 10 minutes or so, followed by Q&A. So we're going till 2:30. That's a little shorter than some of the Halt the Harm webinars that we've had. And like I mentioned, you can ask questions in the chat. I'm going to turn off my webcam now so we can getting into the slides. Does that sound good, Sam?
Sounds good. I'm gonna turn mine off as well.
Cool. All right. So meet the speakers. You've already seen both of us, Sam Rubrate from FracTracker Alliance and me from Halt the Harm Network. Just a little bit about Sam. Sam's worked with FracTracker since its beginning in 2010. And with FracTracker, Sam conducts and translates environmental health research for the website, nurtures collaborative relationships, manages FracTracker's student internship program, also serves as the initial contact for media inquiries. Sam obtained a Master of Public Health degree from Pitts or Pittsburgh?
It's Pitt Public Health. They changed the
Oh,
name.
oh, okay, cool. Pitts Graduate School of Public Health and is currently a doctoral candidate in the Environmental and Occupational Health Department. Sam spent time
Actually,
in.
I probably should update that. I
Oh,
completed
okay.
I finished. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Wow. Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, it was quite a fall.
Wow. Yeah, so about me, I live in the Ithaca, New York area, and since 2008, I've been doing organizing around this area around fracking issues. So I'm one of the co-founders of Shale Shock Action Alliance, and I've been participating in things like listening projects and um, mostly messaging strategy. That's a really big part of my passion, and actually started interviewing members of Halt the Harm Network for a radio program here, and then that eventually turned into the Halt the Harm podcast. So really glad to be here today talking a bit about networks. So just for those of you that are new to Halt the Harm, we're a national network that connects and serves and supports people who are working to halt the harms of fracking. And our goal is really to expand and strengthen the base of leaders and supporters in this movement. We're providing a number of services that we can talk about to help win the fight on a national level. And since the beginning, about 4 years ago, the network has grown to more than 500 leaders and 15,000 supporters across all 50 states. So we look at the leaders as pretty much anybody that's taking action, that's organizing, whether you're an individual or you're working with an organization. That's how we sort of look at that. And some of the services that we provide are the directory, which we'll talk a little bit about today, and the alliance map, which is something that Sam's going to be talking about today. There's other things too, like crowdfunding help, campaign support. There's a sort of natural collaboration that happens amongst the network. We have a help center, we have litigation tools, we have the podcast and the webinar series, which you're seeing right now. We have quite a few past webinars that you can check out as well. And you can see a whole gallery and watch the videos from past webinars on our website. So anyway, at the end, we're going to have a Q&A. And so let's just get started right now with FracTracker and Sam. So you ready to take it away?
I am. Yeah, there's actually a slide just to give people some background after this slide on FracTracker, if you can pull that up.
You bet.
Yeah. So this is just similar to Halt the Harm's kind of background information about FracTracker, in case this is the first time that you've heard of us. We got started in 2010 working at the University of Pittsburgh Graduate School of Public Health, and then in 2012 spun off into an independent nonprofit so that we could expand geographically and work with a variety of different partners mapping oil and gas data. We really want to be working to improve oil and gas transparency, safety, health issues are also some of the reasons we got started. You can learn a lot more about our organization at fractracker.org, but now I will actually take you to the Alliance map. So if you want to go to the next slide, give you a little bit of a preview. So the Alliance map is a public database and map of organizations and people who are working on oil and gas issues. It's primarily in the US, but it is expanding internationally. So let's explore the live map. So if you want to share my screen now, you can go there.
Great.
All right, can you see it all set?
Looks good.
Okay, so right now we're on just fractracker.org. We're going to go to the Get Involved tab at the top. We're going to click on the Alliance map. So here you see the screenshot from the slideshow. So we're going to go and explore the live map. And give you a little bit of background about the legend. The records in the database are color-coded by the type of organization that can be found on the map. And on the left, you can see a little bit more information about those groups. So let's say you are a resident living near Tulsa, Oklahoma, and you want to get more involved in the fight against oil and gas drilling going on near you or in the region. So let's search Tulsa. So now we're in Tulsa. We're going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to look for some dots that are near us, and I find this one over here. It's red, so that's an advocacy group. You click on it, and you can see there's a small pop-up, but we're going to expand it. So this gives us a little bit more information about this organization. I don't personally know this organization, so I just picked it based on where Tulsa was. And you can see that there is some summary information, contact information that is available, latitude and longitude, and how accurate that location information is. So sometimes folks will enter just a municipality, so that's all we have to go on to determine the latitude and longitude of that point. But if I'm that resident who's really interested in getting involved, going to that organization's website, or in this case, Facebook page, would be really helpful because they can sign up to follow the organization, they can contact them. So you can kind of get an idea of how this map can be used for a resident, but there's a lot of other use cases that we can talk about if folks are interested. So now we're going to go back to the map. Now, if you've already checked out the map, you'll recognize that there's about 521 organizations on this map to date, and we recognize this is not nearly complete. This is a project that I've been working on for the last couple of years, and it's sort of a labor of love. It isn't something that is my full-time position, and we have a lot of help from interns that have worked with us. The last time we reviewed the map and the list that makes it was last summer, but I'm sure the listing and contact information could be refreshed, and that's actually where you come in. Next, I'll show you how to get yourself onto this map if you're not already on here. So we're going to go back to the landing page where I took you originally, where the Alliance map is located. And then you just scroll down to, this is an embedded Google form on our website that you can enter your organization, your business, or even if you're an individual who's just really active taking oil and gas photos in your area, you can add your information to this map. And you just put it in the form, your name, website. The main thing that we want to emphasize is to include some location information, some sort of, whether it's your address, your city, your state is required, and this is because we need some way to geolocate your organization or your group, and without location information, we can't add you to the map. And the more information you provide, the more accurate the pin is, but if you're concerned about security, you can list just the zip code, or you can list just the city, and we'll put the point right in the center of the city to help protect some of your privacy. So with that, let's go back to the webinar slides, and I'll just summarize the Alliance map real quick.
All right. All right.
Okay, so thanks. To recap, the Alliance map is a public database and a map for exploring potential collaborations and resources in particular regions, mostly in the US. Please keep in mind that any data you enter is publicly accessible. You can use this map to find resources near you and to get discovered by people who are looking for resources, or even perhaps to fund you. Pins on the map are colored by organizational category. You just should pick the category that best suits you. It's not going to be a perfect fit all the time. This map and form is open to groups, organizations, individual leaders where applicable. And we recognize that the map isn't 100% complete, but it's easy for you to get listed through the online form. And finally, just contact me directly if there are changes you'd like to have made if you already are on the map, or if you would like to be removed from it. My email is malone@fractracker.org.
Awesome.
So I probably won't go through the rest of the use cases, but those are kind of there for folks in case they're curious.
And Rick just jumped in the chat and said, I can help update the map for Colorado. So that's awesome.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. And that's also a reminder for folks who have any comments or questions to use the chat down at the bottom. Do you want to add anything else about the Alliance map, Sam?
No, I think that's good unless folks have questions, and we can always go into more detail if we have time at the end.
Awesome. So I will start talking a little bit about the leader directory. And this is really cool because the leader directory is one of the services provided by Halt the Harm, and it's really complementary. In fact, it's actually connected to the Alliance map. When you fill out the Alliance map form, you'll see at the bottom that it actually says, the content going on the Alliance map is also being shared with the leader directory, which is really helpful. So the leader directory, and actually before I jump too much into the leader directory, I just want to define a little bit about the idea behind how this directory was created. It says right here, connect through interests, skills, and location. This came directly out of conversations that I had with different grassroots leaders at a conference. We were talking about networking, and we were talking about what are some of the really key pieces of information that can help form a network. There seemed to be also some concerns that, creating a website where people have profiles and can send messages to each other could be a little bit too much. Like we don't want to try to recreate a social platform or something like that. We already have tools that we use to connect with people all the time on a day-to-day basis, and very few people want another thing that they have to log into and check on a consistent basis. So that's not what we built here with the directory. What we did with the directory is we created something that really just allows people to connect one-on-one based on things like interests and skills and location. Those are the three main features that makes the directory what it is, but also being able to edit your own profile rather than just having us collect information as people join the network as a leader and then add it to a directory. It's kind of like a big phone book for the the, the movement that's focusing around fracking issues to represent themselves in their organization, similar to the alliance map, although the directory is really just for individuals. So you can go in and edit your own profile, and I'll show you in a second what that looks like. Also, having the map allows you to identify people in your region, and also being able to send messages to somebody can make it easy to break that ice. Sometimes it's a little challenging to send somebody just a cold email, and that's another thing that we're going to talk about in the webinar too, is some best practices for cold outreach. So here's what it looks like to join the directory. It's really simple. From the website, you'll see a button that says apply to the directory. And the reason that we have it as an application is because this directory is actually vetted. So we're looking for people that are active in the movement, that are working on projects, and they will explain what they're doing to halt the harms of fracking and what their work entails. And after the application is reviewed and we talk to people, they then have access to all the services that we provide. Services like the Alliance map and the directory, but also campaign support, which allows you to send targeted messages based on zip codes, which can be really effective strategy. We have around 15,000 supporters in the network who you can actually reach out to through targeted email campaigns. So that's not the only type of campaign support, but that's just an example. Crowdfunding, we've helped organizations with their crowdfunding, but also just connecting people together that we know as kind of like networkers, helping people help each other in the campaigns. The podcast is a newer project. There's only one season, and season 2 is coming soon. The webinar series, our next one is about methane, and it's about health professionals who are concerned about methane, and actually a new report that was released about it. The map of litigation, the help center, which you're going to hear about soon, a major announcement. It's really exciting. But anyway, with the directory, here's the map. And as you can see, I can zoom in on specific areas, and I can actually click on a profile and see the person's name and what they're working on. And just like Sam said, we do this based on zip code. So people don't have to give their personal address. So you can't just zoom in on somebody's street address using this map. So that's also important to a lot of people in the network. But being able to find people based on location is super helpful. So again, you can connect around interests. So I'll put crowdfunding and search. And what it's going to do is pull up a few of the people who've listed crowdfunding as something that they're interested in. So here's what the profiles look like. Many of you got the invitation for this webinar from Prarthana, also part of Halt the Harm. And Prarthana was my first contact with Halt the Harm Network. It was really great. She reached out to me when I was doing my radio program. It was really fun to connect. And so as you can see, the bio is something that you can edit yourself. I'll show you what it looks like for me, what it actually looks like to edit, because it's super easy. And that's one of the important things, is that it's just really easy to edit the profile. So when you edit the profile, you can add your images and your bio, any organizations that you're part of, and websites, and you can even make a fancy bio. Add your skills and interests and your location and any social media that you want to connect to the page. So in a nutshell, that's the directory and the way it works. It's really meant to be fairly simple and connect people. So just some examples would be, if you have a campaign and you want to connect with somebody, maybe you want to look and see who has database skills. or who might be able to help with an upcoming event or something like that. Or you just want to connect with other people in the network that are involved with legal support so that you can swap some resources or skills. And that brings us to the part on cold outreach. And actually, before I do that, I just want to explain the reason that there aren't too many pictures yet is because we just released this. We released the directory just a few weeks ago. And because we rebuilt it from the ground up, we have people's information, people who signed up as leaders over the past few years, but people are still going in and updating their accounts now. So updating your account is really easy. You just go to halttheharm.net/recreate if you already have an account, and you can reset your password. Of course, you can start fresh too. You can just go to the website and sign up and start fresh. But anyway, cold outreach is something that is really, it's kind of a big part of networking. Sometimes you need to reach out to people that you have never talked to before. And that can be challenging and it can be awkward. And it's also hard, especially if you're reaching out to people that are really busy. It can be hard to um, get through, not because they're being rude, but because they probably get a lot of email and they probably get a lot of email that's templated or like copy and paste email. So that's number one of some best practices. It's not to send just a standard email. You want to show that you know something about the person, that you've been paying attention to their work, maybe reference something that was how you became aware of them that sort of gives a reason for you to be reaching out to them in the first place. Also, referencing a shared connection, like being part of a network, is really valuable too, because if you're part of something, if you share something together, then that's a reason that you stand out as somebody that's just doing, that's contacting them out of the blue. Also, this is a mistake that people make all the time. I've made this mistake before, and I've found that cold outreach is a lot more effective now that I stopped doing this. But don't just send a list of tasks or links. Don't send a bunch of links like this is what I'm working on and this is a petition I want you to sign, or click here to this is what I do. I reach out to people all the time and say, hey, do you want to join me on my radio show? Do you want to come on the podcast? And when I say, click here to schedule an appointment, that's a little bit too fast for people who have never heard of me. So it's a lot better to start out by just saying, hey, this is what I'm working on. I'm contacting you because of your work with X, Y, and Z. I really liked what you wrote about in this one article. And so I'd love to interview you. Is that something that you'd be interested in? I could send you some more information. And so that just gets the conversation started before I actually send a whole bunch of information to somebody. So that's the other thing, is being specific. So because sometimes with cold outreach, you are asking for something, you're um, asking for someone to check something out, or maybe you're inviting them to an event, or you're telling somebody to sign on to a campaign, to be specific upfront and transparent so that doesn't seem like it's sneaky. So those are just some best practices. If you have some that you want to add, put them in the chat, because I think this is a really important conversation. Is not just the tools that we have, but also, best practices for the network. And that's partly why we put this messaging feature right in the network, so that if you find somebody that you want to connect with, that you can literally just hit the message button in the network right from the directory and start a conversation. It looks like this. So it's a nice way to start a conversation. It sends an email to both people. And if you create your account, you don't have to share your email address either publicly if you don't want to. So that's actually a final thing. And Sam, you touched on this too briefly, but just that privacy is a concern for networks sometimes. And so when you're using these tools, just know that the fact that you can customize the tool, and the fact that we provide this messaging feature, and that we're only asking for your zip code and not a street address, that means that you do have some privacy in those details. However, if you do want to share it, if you have a headquarters or an office, or your organization does want to receive mail or does want to receive phone calls, there's fields for that as well. So honored to have the chance to show the leader directory. And thank you, Sam, for talking about the FracTracker Alliance map. And now we're going to open it up for some questions. So the first one that came through, and if you joined a little late, just know that at the bottom of your webinar control panel, there's a little chat box that you can add things. We have a few questions here. I'm going to read them off. So here's one for Sam. Sam, can you show your email in the chat? You mentioned earlier that people can email you with questions about the map. So awesome,
Sure thing.
cool. And Kathy asks, if we register an organization to the directory, is our personal name and info attached, or just the organizational info? That's a great question. So Sam, do you want to take that with well, okay, well, I'll just answer with the directory because that's what you're asking, Kathy, is with the maybe with the leader directory. With that, it is your personal name and info because the leader directory is based around individuals. And so with the alliance map would be the appropriate place for listing an organization. Is that the way you like to explain it too, Sam?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Cool. So if you see if we're not if it came through the chat, then Sam's email's there, and if you can't see it, it's Malone MALONE at fractracker.org, and I'll give you my email address as well. So the next question is from Rick. It says for the Q&A, who developed and maintains your website? Pretty awesome. So you could be talking about FracTracker website because that's pretty awesome, right?
Yeah, we Viable Industries helps us with some of the back end, and then I run all of the front end design and content.
Awesome. Yeah, I love your website. I was really inspired by it. I built the website for Halt the Harm. So Rick, if you're talking about Halt the Harm, thank you. I actually built it with some inspiration from FracTracker. So I like this floating
Oh, that's
menu.
cool.
I thought that was really cool. So I wanted to make sure that that was part of this website too. Oh wait, it's not even part of the website. That's so funny. I just got caught. I'll have to add that in. But okay, so Walter has a question. How do you verify that people aren't working for the gas industry? That's a really good question, Walter. So we have on the website, the process for people to sign up is an application. And what we do is when we get people's information, they fill out the application, they explain what they're doing to fight fracking, what kind of support do they need, what kind of relevant organization or groups that they work with, issues they're focused on. So these are a bunch of questions that are all required. And so we hope that people aren't just making things up. We do follow up with people and talk to people. We do, it's almost like an interview because we want to know also, like, at least my role, and also same with Prarthana, is we want to know how we can best support somebody's work. And some people aren't, people in the network have a whole range of how they use the internet and how they access services like this. So some people, their phone number is more important than their email address, and they may want to be listed in the directory, but they actually, having us help them make connections, excuse me, can also really help. So yeah, for us, it's really good to get to know people a little bit as they're joining. If you saw this register screen doesn't have as many questions, but that's because we only sent this out to people in our who are already on our list from before. So new people are going to be headed over to this. Where is it? I lost it. But anyway, to this application. So we're going to do our best, but then just know that, information on if it's online, it's never totally 100% secure from people, which is one reason that we make it really optional about your your address and stuff like that. Rick says that for personal verification, verifying through social media is pretty effective. We have this problem out in Colorado. Thanks, Rick. That's a really good point. That's being able to just sort of check and see uh, somebody's history. Have they been around a while? Are they involved in different things? Um, yeah. So great. Are there any other questions about the Alliance map or about the Halt the Harm Leader Directory from folks that are here on the webinar? Sam, are there questions that you get in your work, on a day-to-day basis? Maybe we can just talk about that while we wait and see if anybody else has questions.
Sure. I got approached by a funder the other day who was wondering how complete the Alliance map was because they're trying to identify regions that could use extra funding. And, obviously I recognize it's definitely not complete, but if your organization is working on something and you would like to be listed on that, on the Alliance map directly, I'd suggest, that would be a really great opportunity because there are people who are looking that you might not consider as a typical, user of a map like that.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good point. That could be a benefit then of having your organization listed as being uh, found by people that are looking for places to support.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, today, and this is something I'm would love feedback on too. But today, I read a really great article about grassroots organizations in hurricane relief, and it was giving examples from Hurricane Katrina and talking a bit about what's happening right now. And so, I'm doing some research now for my work about what are some of the grassroots organizations that exist in these regions that people can donate to and support right now, rather than just supporting the big the really big organizations that have a lot of funding already, maybe a lot of reach. And that's specifically relevant because where I live in Ithaca, New York, where it's hard to find out about these grassroots organizations, but something like the Red Cross is out right now, talking to people and raising money. So, nothing against supporting the Red Cross, just knowing what other things are out there is important.
That applies to oil and gas as well. There are
Yep.
small grassroots efforts and individuals that make a really big impact that might not
Mm-hmm.
get the press that a larger organization does. So it's very helpful, I think, to know what's available, what resources are near you.
Great. So Rick has a question. Is there any overarching policy goals for these great efforts? In particular, have people here heard or are aware of community rights? This is our strategy in Colorado. So, Sam, what do you say? Are there any overarching policy goals?
Not for the Alliance map. FracTracker is very much a non-policy organization. We provide, I'd say we see ourselves as a resource in and of itself for other groups to be able to utilize the data and the maps and sort of the connections that are available. But that being said, this information can be taken and used a lot of different ways. So, it's certainly applicable for policy. And like I said, there have been people contacting us and trying to figure out how complete the Alliance map is so that they can understand, okay, are there gaps? In West Virginia, there is a ton of drilling, but there isn't nearly as much grassroots and even grassroots, there is a lot there, but I could say, funding sources for that region would be really helpful, Appalachia in general, for both from a policy level, but also from a foundation level. So it could be used either way to support groups that are in that area. And that's just one example. There are obviously lots of gaps in the map that need to be filled in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's the same for Halt the Harm in the sense that we're supporting our primary goal is to support these different grassroots organizations. So the policy goals that those organizations carry, we're giving them services and hoping that can give them some leverage. And Rick says there's a big story on Democracy Now! This month about the Red Cross. So yeah, thanks, Rick. That's actually the story that that prompted me to start thinking about this more. So I was really grateful that Democracy Now! Is out there doing that work too. So it's 2:37. Webinar is officially over. We are hanging out to see if there's any final questions. Feel free to join in, and yeah, looking forward to connecting with people in the directory and seeing new data show up on the Alliance map. Um, really great that everybody made it here today.
Yeah, it's been great.
Cool. Well, we're going to send you a replay at the end of the show. So you'll see the slides and you'll see links to some of the things that were mentioned and also the replay for the webinar. Want to big thanks to you, Sam, for coming on and for all the work that you do. It's been really awesome to work with you and learn more about FracTracker. Really cool organization, and we look forward to seeing you all at our next webinar.
Yep, thanks for having me.
Bye, everybody.